This video will seem very strange and even nonsensical to those who are not yet ready to understand, but I know that when the time comes, this will be perfectly intelligible. As of now, we are the 10th of March 2022, and I know myself to be what Hegel calls reason, namely that my singular consciousness is the consciousness of the totality. And I know that this assertion, which I know is absolutely true, but it is only true for myself for now. And the passage from what Hegel calls reason to what Hegel calls spirit is when the inner certainty of reason becomes truth, namely, it becomes true for another consciousness. And Hegel explains perfectly well that the singular consciousness which says to others, I am the whole of reality, my consciousness is the condition of all reality, it's perfectly normal in the process that the others shall not understand because they themselves have a certainty of their own self-consciousness. And the whole difficult process of reason consists in convincing others that we are spiritually identical, that we are modes of an infinite being, and that infinity, which means relation to self outside of oneself, is only possible through spirituality. So, yeah. In my intellectual and spiritual path, which has led me to reason, the birth of reason in August 2018, I have met figures of consciousness which are really existing people, and the way I could express it is that we are characters in God's divine comedy, like Dante, and more precisely, we are figures of consciousness, and I am what Hegel calls the concept in the phenomenology of spirit. And spirit builds itself, construct himself a spiritual kingdom with angels, demons, intermediary beings, and so on. That's the words used by representation. But I have understood that demons are my own fears and my own weakness and my own evil and my own vices made manifest in the external world. The demons in the world are a projection of myself, because to make things intelligible, my higher self is the absolute self, and my lower self is this empirical being that you see. And 99% of the time I identified with this lower self, and in my best moments I realized that I am a higher self, which is the principle of all reality. And the demons are the fears and the evils projected by this empirical individual in reality, and the angels, in the religious view, are other minds which, without knowing me for now, share spiritual knowledge which helps me remind myself of my real identity. And this is a Hegelian process. And my purpose as a cosmic transcendental self is to remember God, which means, it works in English but not in other languages, to put back together all the members of the one divine totality which have been dismembered and forgotten. And to remember means to remind other minds of their true essence, which is unity with God in spirit and in mind. And I could express it in Leibniz vocabulary that we are monads, and what we perceive to be bodies in the world is some sort of hallucination, because the real essence of things is a colony of monads, which is spiritual atoms in a way, and God is the monad of all monad. It is the harmonizing principle of all individual consciousnesses. That's the vocabulary of Leibniz. I could talk about the modes of the one infinite substance, to use the vocabulary of Spinoza, but I prefer talking about Hegel's vocabulary, which is figures of consciousness. And in 2019, when I started to look at the world and understand that the world was my mirror, I panicked. I was shocked because I saw horrendous events occurring every day, and I tried to mutilate myself, and I succeeded partly. And when I was in hospital, which sounds kind of crazy, but I made videos. I started the channel Cultural Hegelianism, and I tried to alert and to give a warning and to awaken the individuals which had been so essential in my spiritual development and spiritual path. So I made videos about Forgotten Roots, I think I mentioned him, Apollonian Germ, Thulean Perspective, Marie Cachet, Caroline Emmerich. These are really existing people whose spiritual content is identical with mine, and who unconsciously, by making videos and writing books and exchanging thoughts, have helped me remind myself of my true identity, which is not this empirical individual, but is the transcendental principle of all realities. And what I tried to do and failed, because the time was not yet proper, was to seek infinity and to remind them that we are one spiritual entity, and that if we could remember ourselves, all conflicts would cease, because we would realize the knowledge would spread, and we would all realize that we are just one being which had separated itself from itself and forgotten its own inner identity and its own infinity. And then if we could remember this, all problems, all conflicts would be solved, and we could enjoy eternal bliss of being just this self-conscious cosmic totality thinking about itself and all that, and it would be heaven on earth and whatever. That's what I wished, but with more maturity now I understand that it's not that easy, because we are in the divine comedy of God, or the phenomenology of spirit, and that there is tragedy and suffering within being, because spirit is torn apart and separated violently from itself, and it is only through this violent separation that spirit rejoins with himself. So that's my fate in a way. And as you may know, when you watch and understand this video, you will have realized that there are worldly events which are an unconscious manifestation of my higher self, and tragic events and horrendous events and chaotic situations. And it is only in moments of chaos and separation and violence that spirit finds its own truth. And yeah, you will, when you watch this video, you will watch also my previous video, and you will understand what my higher self is, and your relationship to it, and to the whole of being. And I just would like to say that you are what in the Christian religion they call angels. You are sent by spirits to help spirit remind itself of his own true identity. And I don't know how things will unfold, but I know that you, as a part of the spiritual entity, will have an important role to play, because we are in God's tragic and comedy show. In a way, it's a mixture of tragedy and comedy, and it's a show that God makes for himself, because he was bored in the nothingness of primordial being, I guess. And you will have a role to play. And what I can say is that you have all the knowledge that you need. The only lacking idea is Hegel's logic. So you will become teachers of mankind by sharing your knowledge, but you just have to connect the dots by using Hegel's logic, and everything, your entire life, all the songs that you've loved, the films that you've watched, the movies, the video games, the books that you've read, the experiences that you've had, the belief that you've held, the persons that you've met, everything will make sense. You just need to look through the lens of Hegel's logic. And I know that when I make this video, you won't watch it because it's not the time. But when you watch this video, you will understand, and you will have to be worthy and to be to shape up literally, and to play the role that God has appointed you to play in this cosmic cosmic life and cosmic self-revelation of the Absolute. And you will have to remind others who are less knowledgeable than you of who they are, and to remind myself when I find myself in times of trouble, and I will, my true identity. And there's a song, there are two songs that I would like you to listen to. The first is Umbrella by Rihanna, and the umbrella is the logical totality which protects from the falling rain, and the rain is suffering. That's symbolic. And it says, you're part of my entity, here for infinity. But listen to the whole song and you will understand everything. And there's another song, Katy Perry, Rise. It's a song made for God himself, to remind himself his need to evolve and to spiritualize himself in times of trouble. And there's this quote which says, I must stay conscious through the madness and chaos, so I call on my angels. When you watch this video, you will understand. Listen to the song, watch my other videos, meditate on what I've just said, and everything will make sense. And the only thing that I can ask you, which you, from the transcendental point of view, you are a manifestation of myself, a part of myself, is to remind myself at whatever costs of my real identity. If you have, I can imagine many crazy, twisted scenarios, but if you have to treat me ruthlessly so that I must remind myself of my true identity, then do it. I give you full permission of treating me, this empirical individual, in any way you consider fit, to remind myself of my real identity, because God must remember himself, and that's a painful process, but that's part of the plan. So I only have a vague view, but I know that there will be worldly catastrophic events, and that danger is the opportunity for the brave and for the wise to rise and to become influential. And in the Christian religion, they say that at the end times, which is the apocalypse, which is simply the self-revelation of God to himself, everything is turned upside down. Male become female, the wise become the stupid, and so on. And the people that I've mentioned in this video, they are very intelligent, but they have not had a formal classical training. They have wandered on their own path. And this is what makes true philosophy and true wisdom. It's self-knowledge that you acquire by your own process, but strictly speaking, it's not your own, it's God's process. But the formal classical training brings you no knowledge. In the end, everyone will understand everything, but the first who acquire a deep and profound knowledge about the essence of things are those who walk their own path and walk against the currents and the current mainstream, and who are bold and who are willing to defend position which might be ridiculed or laughed at or ignored or disregarded. So I know that in due time you will watch this video and you will understand, and that's all I need for now.